They say you can't rewrite a memory, but that night in Tulsa makes me think otherwise. Because the way it replays in my head now, over and over again, feels sharper, more vivid than it ever did in the moment. Like someone went back with a red pen and underlined every detail I should have noticed the first time. It was our 10th college reunion. The kind of event you promise to go to out of obligation but secretly hope gets canceled. Still, Brooke was excited, unreasonably so. She'd been talking about it for weeks, insisting we show up looking our best. I didn't think much of it. I figured she just wanted to flex a little, remind everyone that we'd made it. She'd always cared more about impressions than I did. We arrived at the old conference hall just before 7. The place looked exactly as I remembered. Dull gray walls, dusty chandeliers, and round tables dressed in white linen that never quite fit right. I wore a navy suit, classic, nothing flashy. Brooke, though, she turned heads. An emerald green dress that hugged her figure, hair pinned back just enough to look effortless, and that scent. God, that scent. It hit me before I even saw her step out of the bathroom. Strong, heady, and not at all familiar. Spiced amber or something close, with a musky undertone that lingered in the air like a secret. I paused mid-sip of water, confused. She never wore anything like that. Her perfumes were always soft, floral, citrusy, comforting. The kind you forget until you catch a trace on a scarf days later. You ready? She asked, all smiles, brushing a hand over my arm. I nodded, still processing the unfamiliar fragrance wafting off her skin. I wanted to ask right then, but something about her energy made me hesitate. She seemed electric. Too electric. As we walked in, old classmates greeted us with polite enthusiasm. Brooke jumped into conversations with practiced ease. I watched her from a distance, doing what she did best, laughing just loud enough, leaning in slightly when someone spoke, touching arms during stories. She never used to drink much, but that night, she accepted every glass of champagne offered, sipping slowly, savoring each one like a reward. I mingled too, but my eyes kept drifting back to her. At first, I chalked it up to pride. My wife was gorgeous, no doubt about it. But the longer I watched, the more it shifted into unease. There was something curated about the way she moved. Like she wasn't just catching up with old friends. She was performing. I finally approached her when she was standing by the bar, chatting with 2 women I barely remembered. She smiled when she saw me, resting a hand lightly on my chest. Jason, you remember Megan and Alyssa, right? I nodded, offered a polite hello, but I couldn't ignore it, the scent. Closer now, stronger. She leaned in to kiss my cheek and it enveloped me. You smell different, I said, trying to sound casual. New perfume. She blinked, just for a second. Too quick for anyone else to notice, but I caught it. Oh yeah, she said, brushing it off. One of the girls at the office let me try hers. I thought it was kind of fun. I nodded slowly. That might have worked if she hadn't paused. If she'd smiled like she meant it. But she hadn't. And that moment, that half second, planted something in me I couldn't shake. The rest of the night was a blur. I tried to stay present, to laugh at the bad DJ's music and nod along with stories I'd heard before, but I kept coming back to that perfume. Why hadn't she told me about it earlier? Brooke usually paraded any new purchase like a trophy, shoes, bags, lipsticks. But not this? And the way she kept her phone close. Not in her purse like usual, but in her hand, screen tilted toward her thigh when she checked it. She smiled at a few messages, quickly swiping them away before I could see. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was being ridiculous. But the lies didn't stick the way they used to. When the event finally started to die down, we slipped out before the crowd. The air outside was cool, the sky washed in navy and scattered stars. I drove while Brooke stared out the passenger window, unusually quiet. You didn't talk much tonight, she said after a while. I was tired, I replied. She turned her head slightly toward me. You've been tired a lot lately. I didn't respond. Just focused on the road, letting the silence stretch. Jason, she said, her voice soft but measured. What's going on? The question shouldn't have caught me off guard, but it did. I kept my eyes forward, tightening my grip on the wheel. I don't know, I said. That perfume. It's not you. She let out a short laugh, one without any humor. Seriously? That's what this is about. I glanced at her. I didn't say it was about anything. She turned back to the window, shaking her head. You always do this, she muttered. Do what? Act like there's something wrong and then make me dig for it. Just say what you want to say. So I said it. Who's it from? She froze. Her hands went still in her lap. For a second, I thought maybe she'd say nothing. But then she tilted her head toward me, her face suddenly calm. Too calm. Do you even hear yourself? She said, her tone suddenly cooler. It's a perfume, Jason. Not a lipstick on my collar. not a hotel key in my purse. You're making up a problem because you're bored. I gritted my teeth. I didn't accuse you of anything. Didn't you? She**T back. You've been staring at me all night like I'm a stranger. Maybe you're the one who changed. There it was. The shift. I recognized it now. The redirection. The quiet accusation folded into concern. I'd seen her do it to others. Never to me. Not until now. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But her words didn't feel spontaneous. They felt crafted, like she'd rehearsed them somewhere. Maybe even in the mirror before we left. When we got home, she kissed me goodnight with that same rehearsed tenderness. I stood in the hallway long after she disappeared into the bedroom. The scent of that bold, foreign perfume still clinging to my shirt like a question I hadn't asked. And that night, for the first time in years, I didn't sleep beside her. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, staring up at the ceiling fan as it rotated slow and steady above me. Each turn whispered the same uneasy question through my brain. Was it always there, and I just didn't see it? It wasn't just the perfume. It was something that had been building slowly, like a pot you leave on the stove too long, thinking the water will never boil until it's already spilling over. Around 3 a.m., I got up, padded into the kitchen barefoot, and poured myself a glass of water. I didn't need it. I just needed something to hold on to. The silence of the house felt too loud. Every creak in the floorboard, every hum from the fridge sounded accusatory. I stood there, leaning against the counter, trying to convince myself I was overthinking. But I wasn't. That night cracked something open in me. I began sifting through old memories with a different lens, like a detective who's just been handed a clue that changes the whole case. Small things I'd brushed off at the time suddenly had context. Uncomfortable, ugly context. Like the way she'd started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. At first, she said it was because she used the alarm app, and I didn't question it. I had no reason to. But over time, she'd beg *N flipping the screen down when I was nearby. Her texts had once been open books, grocery lists, silly memes, group chats with her sister. Now, every buzz came with a subtle tilt of her hand, a forced yawn, or a sudden, "I'm tired, going to bed." Then there were the work nights. She used to count down the hours to leave her job. Every night she'd come home venting about clients, coworkers, deadlines. But lately, work had become a sanctuary, somewhere to stay late, to pick up extra meetings, to fill weekends with emergency projects. I didn't want to be that husband, the one who got suspicious over ambition. But the shift was hard to ignore. Her job hadn't changed. Only her interest in staying late had. And the excuses, they all had a pattern. They emotionally buffered. She'd soften them with casual touches or smiles that didn't quite reach her eyes. There was the time she said she had a team dinner at a sushi place downtown. I'd offered to drive her, even suggested grabbing a quick bite together beforehand. She laughed, said it was just a boring strategy meeting and I'd hate it. When she got home, she said the place was too loud for pictures. No posts, no tags, nothing but a receipt left on the counter with the total blacked out in Sharpie. At the time, I shrugged it off. But now, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Who was she with that she didn't want me to see? I remembered another moment, sharper than the rest. It was a Tuesday. I'd come home from work early, hoping to surprise her with takeout and a bottle of that wine she liked. The house was unusually quiet. I found her standing near the bedroom window, phone pressed to her ear, whispering. When she saw me, she jumped slightly. "Oh," she said too quickly. "You're home early." "Yeah," I said, holding up the paper bag like a peace offering. "Thought I'd surprise you." She smiled, tight and unnatural. "Sorry, I was just on the phone with the spa, trying to reschedule that appointment." But her voice had that edge, too sweet, too calculated. Like she was slipping back into a role she thought I wanted to see. I pushed the thought away back then. But now it gnawed at me. The next morning I stayed quiet. I made coffee like usual, packed my bag like usual. Brooke moved around the kitchen with her typical cheerfulness, humming some pop song under her breath. But everything about her felt edited, too curated. As if she were performing for an audience I couldn't see. On my way to work, I didn't play music. I just drove in silence, watching cars drift past and wondering how long this had been going on without my noticing. And the deeper I dug into my own memory, the more cracks I found. Her sudden bursts of generosity, random gifts, little surprises started to feel like guilt-drenched compensation. A new watch for our anniversary, one I never asked for, elaborate date nights she planned just when I thought things felt off. Was it all a way to reset the scoreboard? I even thought about her social media habits. She used to post everything. Brunches, birthdays, even those dumb holiday sweater parties her friend Mia threw. But now? Radio silence. Just reshared memes and the occasional happy birthday to her coworkers. The pictures of us, the real US, slowed to a trickle. Then they stopped completely. I told myself she was just maturing. That maybe we were entering that quiet stage of a marriage where comfort replaced fireworks. But maybe that was just the version I needed to believe to sleep at night. That evening, I sat in our bedroom after dinner. Brooke was downstairs watching a show, the laugh track floating up through the walls like white noise. I pulled out an old photo album we hadn't touched in years. Our wedding, trips to Maine, birthdays, bad haircuts. In every photo, her smile was real, bright, and slightly crooked, the way it used to be when she was still catching me off guard. And now? That smile only showed up when she was with other people. Not with me. I shut the album. I felt like I was living in a house where every door was slowly being locked from the outside. Then came the moment I'll never forget, something so subtle I almost missed it. I was doing laundry. Brooke had tossed in a few things the night before but never ran the cycle. As I sorted through the clothes, I pulled out a scarf. Not hers. Not mine. Not one I'd ever seen. A deep Berg *NY with a faint scent clinging to it. Not perfume cologne. I held it in my hand for a long time, staring at the fibers, trying to make sense of something that already made too much. She came into the room just as I was folding it. "Oh," she said, eyes wide. "That's Megan's. She left it in my car. I meant to drop it off." I nodded slowly. "Haven't seen Megan in a while?" She smiled a bit too brightly. "Yeah, we grabbed lunch last week. Just a quick catch-up. You remember her, red hair, always laughing?" I said nothing. Just folded the scarf, placed it on top of the dryer, and walked out. I didn't know what to believe anymore. But the ground was no longer solid. Every memory, every excuse, every laugh now felt like it came with footnotes I hadn't been allowed to read until now. And as I sat in bed that night, Brooke beside me scrolling her phone with the screen tilted ever so slightly away, I realized something brutal. This wasn't paranoia. It was memory catching up. It was all there. I'd just been too in love to see it. A week after the reunion, I told Brooke I had a business trip in Dallas. She smiled, offered to help me pack, kissed my cheek like it was just another day. I nodded through it all, keeping my tone even, my expressions neutral. Inside, I felt like a man slowly tiptoeing across thin ice, trying not to breathe too hard lest the cracks spread faster than he could manage. But the truth is, I never left town. The trip was a lie. A carefully constructed story I told to buy time. Space. Clarity. I needed answers. Not more guesses. Not more vague doubts and suspicious timing. I needed the kind of truth that hits you in the chest like a thrown brick. I left early that Thursday morning, suitcase in the trunk, drove around for a few hours until Brooke would think I'd checked into some hotel suite with a view. Then I circled back, parking in a friend's driveway 2 blocks over. I called in sick and worked remotely from my laptop, watching the clock, wondering what she'd do with a house she believed was empty. By noon, nothing. Just silence. At 2, a car pulled into the driveway. Not hers. It was a silver Hyundai sedan. Clean, unremarkable. But I recognized it. The man who stepped out wore a navy blazer and carried a brown leather laptop bag. He walked casually toward the house like he'd done it before. I ducked lower in the front seat, heart pounding. Sweat lined my palms. I knew that face. Not well, but enough. His name was Graham. He worked in her company's marketing department. We'd met once at a company holiday party. Brooke had introduced him as one of the few people at work who still believes in coffee over Red Bull. I remember shaking his hand, laughing at something stupid he said about snow tires. Nothing memorable. Just another face in the crowd. Until now. I watched him use the keypad on our front door. For quick beeps. The door unlocked. He knew the code. He didn't even hesitate. I didn't know how long he planned to stay, but I gave it an hour. Then another. I sat there, car idling off, breath fogging the window, wondering if this was the part where I turned into someone else. The kind of person who storms through doors and shouts. Who throws things? Who demands answers at the top of his lungs? But that wasn't me. Not yet. I waited until the sun dipped low enough to cast the house in shadow. Then I walked to the front door. My key slid in easily, nothing about this moment resisted me. But my stomach clenched like I was walking into a stranger's home. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Music played softly from upstairs, something instrumental, ambient. I took the stairs one at a time, slow, careful, steady. The hallway was dim, the light in the bedroom just barely seeping through the cracked door. I don't know what I expected. But I didn't expect calm. I didn't expect stillness. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, Brooke lay on our bed, one arm draped over a bare chest that wasn't mine. The man beside her, Graham, slept soundly, one hand curled around a pillow, the other resting near her waist. Their clothes were strewn in a lazy path from the foot of the bed to the closet. Brooke's hair was tousled, her skin flushed, the sheets tangled around them like they belonged to a different life. They didn't hear me, didn't stir, didn't move. Time stopped. My breath caught in my throat, my hands suddenly numb. I took a step back, then another, careful not to make a sound. Rage didn't rise. No outburst. No primal scream. Just silence. The kind of silence that comes when a question finally answers itself. I walked out. Down the stairs. Out the front door. The sun was nearly gone by then, painting the sky in bruised purples and deep orange. I felt like I was watching the end of a movie I'd already read spoilers for. I didn't drive far. Just down the road. Parked again. Sat there. Stared at the windshield like it could offer me some sort of divine explanation. Eventually, I drove home, not our home. Not anymore. I went to my father's old place, still empty since he'd gone into assisted living. I had the key. The fridge still worked. The couch still creaked. It was good enough. There, I pulled out the small envelope I'd quietly taken from our locked drawer before leaving the house. Our prenup. Signed 8 years ago when we were younger, happier, dumber. I'd insisted on it, not out of paranoia but practicality. Brooke had agreed with that easy confidence she used to wear like perfume. It's just paper, she'd said back then. We'll never need it. Now, it felt like the only real truth I had left. The next morning, I emailed my lawyer. Urgent, the subject line read. He called back 20 minutes later. I didn't give details. Just told him we were filing and that I wanted to proceed without confrontation. Everything by the book. No drama. No yelling. No second chances. That evening, Brooke texted me. Brooke, did something happen at work? You're not home and your phone's off. Then another. Brooke, are you okay? This isn't like you. I ignored them both. She called once. Twice. I let it ring. Then silence. I knew what would happen next. I'd lived long enough with her to predict the cycle. Concern would turn to confusion. Confusion to suspicion. Suspicion to deflection. And when that didn't work, she'd try charm. But I'd already seen what I needed to see. I couldn't sleep that night. Not because of heartbreak, but because of clarity. A strange, crystalline sort of peace. When a man walks through fire, he doesn't mourn the flames, he remembers what the heat taught him. By morning, I changed every shared password. Revoked her access to our joint banking. Set up alerts for every transaction. Moved half my things out of the house. I watched from my father's porch as the sky turned gold and the birds began to scream like the world hadn't shifted. And in that stillness, that total lack of movement, one simple truth landed on me like the final piece of a puzzle. I was never crazy. I was just paying attention too late. 2 days later, the pictures came down. Not with a dramatic sweep of the arm, but methodically frame by frame. Our wedding photo first. Then the vacation *T from Santa Fe. The one at my mother's old cabin where we looked drunk on campfire smoke and each other. I took them all off the wall in silence, stacked them on the floor, and carried them to the garage like they were evidence from another life. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I needed to stop pretending. By noon, I had also deleted every shared photo album from the cloud. Our digital history vanished in seconds. The notification must have hit her phone while she was still at work. She called immediately. I didn't answer. Not out of pettiness, but preservation. Later, she messaged. Brooke, why did you delete everything? Are you okay? What's going on? Then, more urgently. Brooke, Jason, talk to me. Please. Still, I said nothing. Some things don't need to be said out loud. They just need to be acted on. I transferred funds out of our joint account. Have no more, no less. She couldn't argue about fairness. She didn't even notice until she tried to pay for groceries that evening. Her next message was shorter, but the tone had shifted. Brooke, really? You emptied the account? What the hell is going on, Jason? That was the first crack. I checked into a modest hotel outside the city, no room service, no spa, just clean sheets and a desk for work. I set up my laptop, requested a temporary work-from-home status under the pretense of a family emergency, and got to work on the logistics of separation. I wasn't just walking away. I was dismantling. Systematically. Deliberately. Her calls came in waves: 5 the first night, 3 the next morning, then a pause. I knew what came next: the shift. The recalibration. Brooke had always been a strategist. So when the direct approach didn't work, she pivoted. Brooke, if this is about me being distant lately, we can talk. I didn't realize it got so bad. I stared at the message for a long time, then turned off notifications. The next morning, I met with the lawyer, an older man named Langford with gray hair and a voice like slow gravel. He'd handled our prenup years ago. Now he was unrolling the next chapter. We'll file this electronically, he said, flipping through papers. Clean split. We have the prenup, so she won't have much legal room to maneuver. I nodded. I want it quiet. Langford looked at me over his glasses. Quiet can still be loud, Jason. Later that day, I revoked her access to our insurance and credit lines. She must have noticed because that evening her tone changed again. Brooke, are you trying to hurt me? What are you doing? Just tell me what I did. Still, I didn't respond. I didn't need her to confess. I already knew. And what's more, I knew she knew I knew. This wasn't silence out of confusion. It was strategy. By day 3, her texts got longer. More desperate. Brooke, please, Jason. Whatever this is, whatever you think is going on, we can talk about it. We can work through it. I don't want to lose you. I almost laughed. Not out of cruelty, but irony. Because just a week ago, I would have begged to hear those words. I would have clung to them. Now they felt hollow, like echoes from a stage production that had already closed. The next evening, she showed up at the hotel. I don't know how she found me. Maybe the bank statement, maybe a guess. But when I opened the door and saw her standing there, shoulders tense, eyes wide, hair pulled back like she wanted to seem composed, it didn't feel like a homecoming. It felt like theater. Jason, she said breathlessly, stepping inside before I could react. Please. I didn't stop her. Didn't speak. Just let her sit on the edge of the bed, fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. I know something's wrong, she said. I just need you to tell me what it is. Please. Is this about us not connecting lately? Is it about the perfume? She paused, waiting for me to react. I didn't. Her voice cracked. It was nothing, Jason. Just something I borrowed from a friend. It wasn't about you. I stared at her, letting the silence hang. She stood, moved toward me. If you're angry, I get it. I haven't been present. I've been overwhelmed, work, life, everything. But you can't just shut down like this. I raised my hand gently, stopping her just before she reached me. Don't, I said. That one word froze her. She stepped back, breathing hard. So that's it? You're done talking. I tilted my head slightly. What's his name? She blinked. What she said too fast. I repeated it slower. His name, Brooke. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stood there as the air changed. I didn't press her. I didn't need to. Her silence was an answer loud enough to fill the room. She opened her mouth like she wanted to deny it, but closed it again. Her shoulders slumped, the performance ending. How long? I asked, though I wasn't sure I needed the answer. Her voice came out hoarse. A few months. I nodded once. Slowly. I didn't mean for it to happen, she added quickly. It wasn't serious. I laughed, quiet, bitter. She flinched. Not serious? I said. He was in our bed. She looked like I'd slapped her. I didn't think you'd come home, she whispered. I didn't know you were there. That's the part that makes it better? No, she said quickly. God, no. I'm sorry. I sat down at the desk, facing the window. Outside, the streetlight buzzed gently against the dark. I need you to leave, I said. Jason, please. Don't do this. We can fix this. We can't. Just talk to me, she begged. I'll go to therapy. I'll tell him it's over. I'll do whatever it takes. I shook my head. You already did. That's the problem. She stood there a moment longer. I didn't turn to look. Eventually, she left. I locked the door behind her. Then I sat down and cried. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet, exhausted tears, the kind that come from everything falling apart in slow motion. The next day, I moved to a longer-term rental. Brooke sent more texts. More voicemails. Some angry. Some sad. Some pleading. I didn't answer any of them. Because what was there left to say? She'd chosen someone else. She just didn't expect me to choose myself. Tyler didn't know the whole story. Not at first. All he saw was that his father, me, vanished. One week I was driving him to school, helping with his college search, making breakfast the way he liked. The next, I was gone. Not a suitcase. Not a goodbye. Just empty space where I used to be. At 17, you don't process betrayal the way adults do. You don't dig into nuance or read between the lines. You see abandonment and you pick a side. And in his eyes, I was the one who left. He moved through those first few days like someone tiptoeing through a minefield. Brooke, true to form, kept the story tight. She told him I was dealing with things, that marriages go through ups and downs, and that I needed space. All technically true. None of it honest. Tyler believed her. Why wouldn't he? He trusted her. She made his lunch for school. Went to his soccer games. Knew the name of every kid in his graduating class. She was the one who held it all together when I worked long hours, when I buried myself in conference calls and deadlines. I don't blame him for siding with her. But it didn't make it easier. He called me once, about 5 days after I'd left. His voice was flat, too composed for a kid his age. "Can we meet?" he asked. I told him yes immediately. We sat outside a diner just off Route 51, neutral ground. He ordered black coffee he didn't drink. I got water. He didn't say much at first, just stared across the table like he was trying to memorize my face. "Why'd you leave?" he asked finally. I could have given him the full story. I could have laid out the facts, shown him the evidence. I even had the photos on my phone just in case. But something in me hesitated. Not because I wanted to protect Brooke, but because I didn't want to shatter something in him too early. "Things happened," I said carefully. "Things I couldn't live with." He squinted. "Did you cheat?" "No," I said firmly. His jaw tightened. "Because Mom said you just gave up." I took a deep breath, let the sting of that accusation settle. I didn't give up, Ty. I just stopped pretending. He didn't answer. Just sat back, arms crossed. The wall was up. And I understood. How could I expect him to believe me over the woman who was still there, still cooking dinner, still driving him to practice? "I get it," I said after a while. "You don't have to choose. I'm not asking you to." He stood abruptly. "Doesn't feel like it." He left before I could stop him. Didn't even look back. The weeks that followed were quiet. No calls. No texts. Just updates from my dad, who still saw him sometimes when Brooke dropped him off. Apparently, Tyler stopped smiling as much. Started skipping out on family lawyer meetings. Said he wasn't interested in being involved in grown-up drama. Then one day, that changed. It was a Tuesday. Early afternoon. I was at the rental house fixing a leaky faucet when my phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "Tyler, can I come over?" My heart raced. I replied immediately. 20 minutes later, his car pulled into the driveway. He didn't wait for me to open the door. Just walked in like he used to when we lived together, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't say anything. Just handed me his phone. On the screen was a paused video. Grainy security cam footage. Our living room. The timestamp read 6:52 a.m. about a month ago. I hit play. Brooke, in her robe, crossed the room carrying 2 mugs. A man followed, tall, dressed like he belonged on a casual Friday office flyer. "Graham." He leaned in, kissed her neck. She laughed. Then he grabbed her waist. She didn't pull away. Tyler looked at me, eyes wide, confused. "I didn't know we still had cameras," he said. "We didn't," I replied. "At least, I didn't think we did. I set them up after the break-in last year. Thought I turned them off." He sat down on the couch. "So it's true," he said. "You didn't leave her. She broke it." I nodded slowly. He was quiet for a long time. Then, "She lied to me. She lied to both of us." Another pause. "I feel like an idiot." "Don't," I said. "She's your mom. You trusted her. That's what kids are supposed to do." He looked away, wiping his eyes quickly. "I don't know what to do now." "You don't have to do anything," I said. "You're 17. Your job is to survive this without letting it ruin you. The rest, that's on us." He stayed for dinner. We didn't talk much. Just made grilled cheese and watched reruns of a show we used to love. I let him take the remote. He didn't smile, not really, but I saw his shoulders drop a little. A small weight lifted. He started visiting more after that. Once a week at first. Then more. Sometimes we didn't talk about Brooke at all. Sometimes we did. "She's trying so hard to act normal," he said once. "Like she didn't nuke our family." Another time, "She wants me to go to some joint therapy thing." I told her no. I didn't tell him what to do. I didn't badmouth her. But he made his own choices. He stopped attending the legal meetings about custody and property division. Stopped answering her messages unless it was about school. Started spending weekends with my dad, helping him in the garden, fixing his ancient car radio, just being around. Brooke noticed. One night, she called me first time since the hotel. "You're poisoning him," she said, voice brittle. "I haven't said a word," I replied. "He doesn't look at me the same." You'll have to take that up with the truth. Click. After that, she stopped trying to control the narrative. Maybe she knew it was over. Maybe she just got tired. But the text slowed. The calls stopped. And Tyler? He stayed. Still guarded. Still working through the mess. But he stayed. And for the first time in months, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, something could be salvaged. Not the marriage. Not the illusion. But the only thing that really mattered. My relationship with my son. I never went back to Tulsa. There was nothing left for me there. The house, the street, even the familiar coffee shop on 3rd Avenue, they all felt like echoes of a life I couldn't step into again. I needed a clean slate, not just in name or paperwork, but in geography. In the very air I breathed. So I went south to a small lakeside town in Arkansas where my grandparents once had a summer cabin. It was the kind of place where people waved at you from porches and where time moved slower, not lazy, just deliberate. I bought an old, fading cafe that had gone under during the pandemic. Windows caked in dust, booths cracked and faded, the kitchen coated in a thin layer of forgotten dreams. But the bones were good. The foundation solid. And something about restoring it with my own hands felt necessary. I spent months sanding floors, repainting walls, replacing sinks. I hung my own paintings, mostly landscapes, quiet things on the refurbished walls. I wasn't a professional, but they added color, and I liked the silence that came with the brushwork. On Sundays, I served waffles and coffee. That was it. No fancy menu. Just the basics done well. Locals trickled in. Then stayed. And slowly, the space became something more than mine. It became theirs. One of those locals was Amy. She came in one morning, sat by the window, ordered coffee black, and complimented the cinnamon in the batter without making small talk. She didn't ask about my past, and I didn't offer it. Over time, her visits became regular. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. But there was a comfort in her presence, like the world didn't need explaining when she was near. I never told her about Brooke. Never mentioned Tyler or Tulsa or the day everything fell apart. Not because I was hiding it, but because it didn't belong here. It was furniture from a life I no longer furnished. I wasn't running away, but I was choosing where to stand. It was a Sunday morning, a year to the week since the reunion. The cafe was full, quiet chatter, clinking mugs, the sizzle of batter hitting the griddle. I was behind the counter, pouring a fresh cup for one of the regulars when the door chimed. I looked up and froze. Brooke stood in the doorway. She looked older, not in years, but in posture. Her eyes scanned the room, then settled on me. Behind her stood Tyler, taller, sharper around the edges, but calm. He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement. They walked to the counter. I didn't speak, just reached for a mug, filled it, and placed it gently in front of her. Brooke stared at it for a moment, then at me. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. After a few seconds, she turned and walked out. Tyler lingered. He glanced at the mug, then back at me. There was something in his eyes, not anger, not sorrow. Just understanding. He reached into his pocket and placed something on the counter. A folded note. Then he followed her outside. I didn't open the note right away. I finished the shift, cleaned the tables, locked the doors. Only then did I sit at the back booth and unfold the paper. It was his handwriting. Dad, I get it now. I really do. Thank you for staying silent when it mattered. I see you. I held that note in my hands for a long time. Didn't cry. Didn't smile. Just breathed. It was over. Not in bitterness. Not in triumph. But in peace. And in this quiet place, among strangers who became constants and a woman who never asked for details, I realized I hadn't lost everything. I'd simply found the part that mattered.